As I gaze out at the swirling nebulae from the observation deck of our diplomatic vessel, I can't help but marvel at the peace that has reigned in our galaxy for centuries. I, Johnir, a humble Resh diplomat, have grown up in an era of unprecedented harmony among the diverse species that call this vast expanse home. Our coalition, forged through millennia of cooperation and understanding, stands as a testament to the power of unity. War, that primitive concept that once plagued our ancestors, is now nothing more than a distant memory, a relic studied by historians and anthropologists. The very idea of armed conflict between sentient beings seems absurd to our modern sensibilities. Yet, as I reflect on our current prosperity, I cannot help but feel a twinge of melancholy. My people, the Resh, carry with us a profound loss, the memory of our ancestral home. Thousands of years ago, our sun, once a source of life and warmth, began its inexorable expansion. The lush deserts and sprawling dune seas that we had evolved to thrive in became uninhabitable, scorched beyond recognition. I've seen the holovids, of course. Our historians have painstakingly recreated the beauty of our lost world, the shimmer of heat rising from ruby-red sands, the graceful arc of twin moons in a star-studded sky, the hardy flora that erupted in riotous color after the rare rainstorms. But for me, like all modern Resh, these are just stories, legends of a paradise forever beyond our reach. Now we Resh have adapted. Our short, stocky frames and dense fur, once perfect for retaining heat during cold desert nights, serve us well on the arid worlds we've colonized. But none of these new homes truly match the perfection of our lost cradle. Still, we've found our place in the galactic community. Our natural affinity for desert environments has made us invaluable in terraforming projects across the coalition. Our engineers are renowned for their expertise in heat management and water conservation technologies. We may have lost our original home, but we've helped countless other species make homes of their own. As I turn my gaze from the stars to the interior of our ship, I'm struck by the diversity around me. Tall, willowy Nathar glide past on anti-grav platforms, their delicate features belying their incredible mental prowess. Bulky Groknar, with their thick hides and multiple limbs, carefully maneuver through corridors designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. Each species brings its unique strengths to our coalition, creating a tapestry of life more vibrant than any single world could produce. This is the galaxy as I've always known it: stable, peaceful, with progress measured in small, careful steps. Our scientists collaborate across light years, slowly pushing the boundaries of our knowledge. Our artists blend styles and traditions, creating works that resonate across species boundaries. Even our technology, advanced as it is, evolves at a measured pace, each innovation carefully considered for its impact on the delicate balance we've achieved. Little did I know, as I stood there contemplating our harmonious existence, that everything was about to change. The galaxy as we knew it was on the brink of a transformation, and none of us were prepared for what was coming. A soft chime interrupts my reverie, a message from the ship's captain. We're approaching the coordinates for our next diplomatic mission. With a small sigh, I straighten my robes and prepare to represent the Resh in yet another routine negotiation. After all, in our perfectly balanced galaxy, what could possibly upset the status quo? The first reports of the newcomers reached us during a routine coalition summit. I remember the buzz of excitement that filled the Grand Assembly Hall, a stark contrast to the usual measured tones of our gatherings. Species representatives huddled in small groups, their voices a mix of curiosity and concern. As the Resh delegate, I found myself drawn into a conversation with Aral, my Nathar counterpart. Her large, luminous eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of intense interest in her species. "Johnir," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the general commotion, "have you heard? A new spacefaring race has been discovered." I felt a flutter of excitement in my chest. Such an event was rare. Most species capable of interstellar travel had long since joined our coalition. Truly, where were they found? "On the outer rim," Aral replied, her slender frame swaying slightly. "They call themselves humans, and they come from a planet they name Earth." Over the next few cycles, more information trickled in. The humans had been discovered by a Groknar exploration vessel, which had detected unusual energy signatures from an uncharted system. Upon investigation, they found not just a civilization on the cusp of faster-than-light travel, but one that had already established colonies on multiple worlds within their home system. When the official first contact delegation was assembled, I was honored to be selected as the Resh representative. Our ship, a sleek vessel showcasing the pinnacle of coalition technology, made its way to the human homeworld. Nothing could have prepared me for the sight that greeted us as we entered Earth's orbit. The planet itself was a swirl of blue, green, and white beautiful, but not unlike many life-bearing worlds. What took my breath away was the sheer amount of activity in the space around it. Satellites, space stations, and ships of various sizes buzzed around the planet like insects around a fruit. As we docked with their primary orbital station, I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The humans' technology, while not as advanced as ours in many areas, showed an innovative spirit that both intrigued and unsettled me. The human delegation that greeted us was a study in diversity. They varied wildly in height, coloration, and body structure, more variation within a single species than I had ever encountered. Their leader, a tall female with dark skin and piercing eyes, stepped forward. "On behalf of humanity, welcome to Earth," she said, her voice carrying a warmth that seemed to ease the tension in the room. "We are honored to join the galactic community." As our delegation exchanged pleasantries and began the formal process of introduction, I found myself captivated by the humans' demeanor. They exuded an energy, a barely contained excitement that was both infectious and slightly alarming. Their questions came rapid fire, each answer seeming to spark a dozen more inquiries. Over the next few days, as we toured their facilities and met with various human leaders, a picture began to form in my mind. These humans were adaptable in a way I had never seen before. They thrived in environments ranging from icy tundras to scorching deserts, from dense jungles to barren mountains. When faced with an inhospitable environment, they didn't seek a more suitable planet, they changed the environment to suit their needs. Their history, which they shared with surprising openness, was a turbulent one. Tales of conflict and warfare were interwoven with stories of great achievements and moments of unity. They spoke of these conflicts not with shame, but as lessons learned, stepping stones on their path to the stars. As our visit drew to a close, I found myself of two minds. On one hand, the humans' enthusiasm and drive were refreshing. Their art, music, and culture were vibrant and diverse, offering new experiences that many in the coalition would surely appreciate. Their scientific curiosity aligned well with our own pursuit of knowledge. Yet, I couldn't shake a feeling of apprehension. The speed at which they adapted and innovated was unprecedented in our experience. Their competitive nature, while tempered by their desire for peaceful cooperation, was evident in everything they did. As our ship prepared to depart, the human leader who had first greeted us approached me. "We look forward to learning from you," she said, her eyes gleaming with an intensity that made me blink. "And we hope we have much to offer in return." Watching Earth recede in our view screen, I couldn't help but wonder, had we just welcomed new friends into our galactic family, or had we unknowingly opened the door to a force that would change everything we knew? Little did I know, the true impact of humanity's arrival was yet to be felt. The galaxy was about to enter an era of transformation, and we were woefully unprepared for the whirlwind that was to come. In the cycles following humanity's introduction to the galactic community, I found myself busier than ever. As a Resh diplomat with first-hand experience of the humans, I was constantly called upon to offer insights, attend meetings, and help smooth the integration of this new species into our carefully balanced coalition. At first, the spread of humanity across the stars seemed almost unremarkable. They were granted the standard allotment of unclaimed worlds that we offer to all new members, a generous package designed to allow for gradual expansion and acclimation to galactic society. We expected them to follow the usual pattern: careful colonization, steady growth, and slow adaptation to their new environments. How wrong we were. The first sign that something extraordinary was happening came when I received an urgent communication from Gralthok, a Groknar scientist stationed on Novus Glacis, an ice planet in the outer rim. His thick, gravelly voice trembled with a mixture of awe and concern. "Jonir, you won't believe what I'm seeing," he rumbled. "The humans. They're here." I blinked in confusion. "On Novus Glacis? That's impossible. The environment is far too harsh for them." Growlthok's laughter was tinged with disbelief. Tell them that. They've established a colony. In 3 months, they've gone from a landing party to a thriving settlement of over 10,000. As I digested this information, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Humans were popping up in the most unlikely places, searing desert worlds that even we Resh found challenging, gas giant moons with crushing gravity, planets with caustic atmospheres that should have been instantly fatal. But it wasn't just the extreme environments that shocked us. Humans were spreading to ordinary worlds as well, and at a pace that defied belief. Colonies that should have taken decades to establish were springing up in months. Populations were doubling, tripling, quadrupling at rates that made our heads spin. Curious about their methods, I arranged a visit to Nova Terra, a rocky world not unlike Earth that had become a hub of human expansion. What I saw there left me speechless. The humans had transformed the landscape in ways I had never imagined possible. Vast climate control arrays modified the weather patterns to create ideal growing conditions. Massive terraforming machines churned the soil, introducing microorganisms to make it fertile. Cities sprouted like wildflowers after a desert rain, each one a marvel of efficient design and adaptable architecture. But it was in my conversations with the colonists that I began to truly understand the scale of what was happening. A young human engineer, her eyes bright with excitement, explained their philosophy to me. "We see challenges as opportunities," she said, gesturing to the bustling colony around us. "Every new world is a puzzle to be solved, a frontier to be conquered. It's in our blood, this drive to explore, to adapt, to overcome." As I toured their research facilities, I saw the fruits of this philosophy everywhere. Innovations in environmental suits allowed humans to work in conditions that would kill most species. Breakthroughs in genetic engineering helped them adapt crops to alien soils. Advances in AI and robotics multiplied their productive capacity many times over. But it wasn't just their technological prowess that fueled their expansion. Humans seemed to thrive on the challenges of colonization in a way that was foreign to most coalition species. Where we saw insurmountable obstacles, they saw exciting problems to solve. Where we proceeded with caution, they leapt forward with reckless abandon. As my visit drew to a close, I found myself standing at the edge of the colony, looking out over a landscape that had been barren rock just months before. Now it was a sea of green, dotted with the lights of human habitation stretching to the horizon. A chill ran down my spine as I realized the full implications of what I was seeing. The coalition had always expanded slowly, carefully, with meticulous planning and consideration for the delicate balance of galactic ecosystems. But the humans, they were rewriting the rules of colonization before our eyes. As I boarded my ship for the return journey, I couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The humans were not just adapting to the galaxy, they were reshaping it to suit their needs. And they were doing it at a pace that left the rest of us reeling. What would this mean for the future of our coalition? For species like mine, who had found our niche in the galactic order. As I watched Nova Terra recede in the view screen, these questions echoed in my mind, a harbinger of the turbulent times to come. The spread had begun, and I feared that nothing would ever be the same again. The economic tremors began subtly at first, like the faint rumblings before a massive quake. As a diplomat, I was privy to reports and analyses that painted an increasingly concerning picture of the galactic economy. However, it wasn't until the effects reached my own doorstep that I truly grasped the magnitude of the changes sweeping through our coalition. I remember the day clearly. I was visiting my brother, Kal Nor, at the headquarters of his company, Resh Atmospheric Solutions. For generations, our family had been at the forefront of developing technologies for arid world colonization. Kal Nor's face, usually creased with a confident smile, was drawn and worried. "Janir," he said, his voice tight, "we're in trouble. Big trouble." He pulled up a holographic display, showing market shares and profit margins. The downward trend was stark and alarming. Human companies, Kal Nor explained, they're not just competing with us, they're obliterating us. Their atmospheric processors are twice as efficient as ours, at half the cost. And they're improving them at a rate we can't match. As I digested this information, I realized this was just the tip of the asteroid. Reports flooded in from across the coalition. Venerable Nathar financial institutions, once the bedrock of galactic commerce, were being outmaneuvered by aggressive human trading firms. Grok-Nar mining operations, which had supplied raw materials to half the galaxy for millennia, were being undercut by human automated extraction technologies. The Coalition Council convened an emergency economic summit. I attended as part of the Resh delegation, and the atmosphere was tense. Species representatives argued fiercely over how to respond to the human economic juggernaut. The Nathar delegation proposed strict regulations to slow human expansion and protect established industries. We must preserve the balance that has served us for so long, their speaker urged, her delicate features set in determination. The Grok-Nar, surprisingly, argued for a more open approach. We cannot hold back the tide, their representative growled. We must learn to swim in these new waters, or we will drown. As the debate raged, human observers sat quietly, their expressions a mix of sympathy and barely concealed excitement. They had been invited in a spirit of openness, but their presence now felt almost threatening. When it was my turn to speak, I tried to strike a middle ground. We cannot ignore the benefits that human innovation brings, I said, my voice steady despite my inner turmoil. But neither can we allow the foundation of our society to be eroded. We must find a way to integrate human economic practices without losing our own identity. The summit ended with a series of half-measures: modest trade restrictions, investment in coalition research and development, cultural exchange programs aimed at better understanding human economic philosophies. Even as we voted on these policies, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were applying patch fixes to a system that was fundamentally changing. In the cycles that followed, the economic landscape of the galaxy transformed at a dizzying pace. Human corporations expanded aggressively, buying out struggling coalition companies or simply outcompeting them into irrelevance. Their trade networks spread like a web across the stars, creating new markets and disrupting old ones. Some coalition species adapted better than others. The Grok-Nar, true to their word, threw themselves into partnerships with human enterprises, leveraging their natural strengths to carve out new niches. Others, like the Nathar, retreated into economic isolationism, desperately trying to protect their traditional industries. We Resh found ourselves somewhere in the middle. Some of our companies, like Kal-Nors, managed to pivot, focusing on specialized applications of our desert world expertise that even the humans couldn't match. Others weren't so fortunate. I'll never forget the day I walked through the empty halls of the Resh Mercantile Exchange, once the bustling heart of our species' economic life. The silence was deafening, broken only by the echo of my footsteps and the occasional ping of a forgotten terminal. As I stood there, surrounded by the ghosts of our economic past, a human phrase one had recently learned came to mind: creative destruction. They used it to describe the process by which new economic systems replace old ones, driving progress but leaving casualties in their wake. Looking at the abandoned trading floor, I couldn't help but wonder, in this new galactic economy shaped by human ambition and innovation, would we be the creators or the destroyed? And as the economic bedrock of our coalition crumbled, what other aspects of our civilization would be swept away in the human tide? The answers to these questions, I feared, would come all too soon. The economic upheaval was just the beginning, and the true test of our coalition and my own people still lay ahead. The economic tremors that shook our galactic society were just the beginning. As I soon discovered, the true depth of human influence would be felt not in our markets, but in our minds and hearts. It started innocuously enough. Human entertainment began to trickle into coalition space: music, videos, games, and literature. At first, it was a mere curiosity, something exotic to be sampled alongside our traditional cultural offerings. But like a supernova, human culture exploded across the galaxy with an intensity that left us reeling. I first noticed the change in my nephew, Tirnak. Once a studious young Resh with ambitions of following the traditional path into atmospheric engineering, I found him one day engrossed in a human virtual reality simulation. "Uncle Johnir," he exclaimed, his eyes bright with excitement as he removed the VR headset. "You have to try this. It's called Cosmic Frontiers. You can explore and settle new worlds, just like the humans do." As I reluctantly donned the headset, I was struck by the immersive nature of the experience. The thrill of discovery, The challenge of survival in alien environments, the satisfaction of building something from nothing, it was intoxicating. For the first time, I truly understood the human drive for expansion that had puzzled me for so long. But it wasn't just games. Human music, with its vast array of styles and emotional range, began to dominate galactic airwaves. Their visual arts, from mind-bending digital creations to traditional physical mediums, filled our galleries. Human literature, with its themes of individual struggle and triumph, became bestsellers across Coalition space. The impact on Coalition youth was profound. Young Resh, Nathar, Groknar, and others began adopting human fashions, human slang, human attitudes. Traditional career paths were abandoned in favor of human-inspired pursuits: entrepreneurship, creative arts, extreme sports. Concerned about these developments, I attended a cultural symposium on Nathar Prime. The Grand Hall, once a bastion of serene Nathar aesthetics, was now a cacophony of sights and sounds. Holographic displays showcased human art next to Nathar masterpieces. The air thrummed with a fusion of Nathar harmonic chants and human electronic beats. During a panel discussion, a venerable Nathar cultural preservationist voiced her concerns. "We are losing ourselves," she lamented, her delicate features etched with worry. "Our youth are abandoning millennia of tradition for human fads. How can we preserve our identity in the face of this cultural invasion?" A human anthropologist on the panel offered a different perspective. "Culture is not static," he argued passionately. "It evolves, adapts, incorporates new elements. What you're seeing is not the death of Nathar culture, but its evolution. Embrace the change, and your culture will emerge stronger and richer for it." The debate raged on, but I found my attention drawn to a group of young Nathar in the audience. They were dressed in a striking fusion of traditional Nathar robes and human-inspired accessories. As they passionately discussed the panel in a mix of Nathar language and human idioms, I realized I was witnessing the birth of something entirely new. Back on my home world, I saw similar changes. The once austere architecture of our cities now incorporated human design elements, splashes of color, unconventional shapes, green spaces that seemed to defy our desert environment. Our traditional communal living structures were being replaced by human-style individual dwellings. Even our cuisine, unchanged for millennia, was being infused with human flavors and techniques. But it was in the realm of ideas that the human influence was most profound. Human philosophies of individualism, personal freedom, and constant progress began to challenge our long-held beliefs in collective harmony and measured advancement. Debates that would have been unthinkable a few cycles ago now raged in our forums and educational institutions. One evening, as I watched the twin moons rise over the changed skyline of my home city, I received a call from Tiernake. His image flickered to life in my holoprojector, and I was startled to see him wearing a human-style spacesuit. "Uncle," he said, his voice brimming with excitement, "I've been accepted into the Human Coalition Joint Space Exploration Program. I'm going to be part of the first mixed-species crew to explore beyond the galactic rim." As I congratulated him, my heart swelling with a mix of pride and apprehension, I realized that this was the new reality of our galaxy. The cultural lines that had defined us for so long were blurring, shifting, reforming into something new and unpredictable. The humans hadn't conquered us with weapons or armies. They had done something far more profound. They had captured our imaginations. As I ended the call with Tiernake, I wondered, in this new culturally blended galaxy, would there still be a place for those of us who remembered the old ways? And more importantly, should there be? As I pondered these questions, I knew that the cultural shockwaves we were experiencing were just the beginning. The very fabric of our galactic society was changing, and the greatest challenges and perhaps the greatest opportunities still lay ahead. But it wasn't until a short time later that we faced a challenge we never thought possible. The news came like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky. I was in my office, sifting through reports of the latest human technological advancements, when an urgent message flashed across my screen. My heart nearly stopped as I read the headline: "Humans announce project to terraform and recolonize ancient Resh homeworld." For a moment I couldn't breathe. Our lost home, the planet we had been forced to abandon millennia ago as our sun expanded and scorched its surface, could it truly be reclaimed? I immediately called an emergency meeting of the Resh High Council. As I entered the chamber, I could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. The council members' faces were a mix of shock, hope, and deep suspicion. "This has to be some kind of trick," Elder Kaznar growled, his fur bristling with agitation. "Why would the humans do this? What do they stand to gain?" "Perhaps it's a gesture of goodwill," suggested Councillor Vreen, always the optimist. "A way to strengthen their ties with our species." As the debate raged on, my mind wandered to the memories passed down through generations of my family. The stories of vast red deserts, majestic canyons, and nights lit by 3 moons. Could we truly walk those sands again? The human ambassador was invited to address the council and explain the project. As she spoke, displaying holographic models of the proposed terraforming process, I found myself torn between hope and disbelief. Using a combination of solar shades and atmospheric processors, she explained, her voice filled with confidence, "We can cool the planet's surface and rebuild its atmosphere. Within a decade, we believe we can restore it to conditions similar to those your ancestors evolved in." The questions from the council came rapid fire. How would the project be funded? Who would have control over the restored planet? What role would the Resh play in the process? The ambassador's answers were reassuring, yet I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The humans were offering us a miracle, the fulfillment of our deepest cultural longing. But at what cost? As the weeks passed, opinions among the Resh population were sharply divided. Many, especially the younger generation, were ecstatic at the prospect of reclaiming our ancestral home. They saw it as a new beginning, a chance to reconnect with our roots while embracing a future alongside our human allies. Others, particularly the older Resh, were more cautious. They feared losing what remained of our traditional way of life, already eroded by human influence. Some even suggested that the project was a ploy to distract us, while humans further consolidated their power in the galaxy. I found myself caught in the middle, both as a diplomat and in my own heart. The prospect of seeing the home of my ancestors with my own eyes filled me with a longing I had never known I possessed. Yet the pragmatic part of me couldn't help but wonder about the broader implications for our species and the galactic community. Despite the controversies, the project moved forward at an astonishing pace. Human terraforming ships, each the size of a small moon, took up orbit around our ancient home. I watched in awe as they deployed vast solar shields, gradually cooling the planet's surface. Automated factories descended to the surface, beginning the monumental task of rebuilding the atmosphere. 5 years into the project, I was part of the first Resh delegation to visit the planet's surface. As our shuttle descended through the newly formed clouds, my heart raced. The landscape that emerged took my breath away, red sands stretching to the horizon, broken by the shadows of towering mesas. It was alien yet hauntingly familiar, like a dream half remembered. As I stepped onto the soil of my ancestors for the first time, a wave of emotion washed over me. The air was still thin, the temperature too high for comfort, but it was undeniably the home we had lost so long ago. Tears welled in my eyes as I scooped up a handful of red sand, letting it run through my fingers. But even in this moment of triumph, I couldn't shake a nagging doubt. As I looked around at the massive human terraforming machines dominating the landscape, at the teams of human scientists and engineers working alongside Resh experts, I wondered, was this truly a reclamation of our past, or the beginning of a future we couldn't yet comprehend? The rebirth of our homeworld was a milestone not just for the Resh, but for the entire galaxy. It demonstrated the incredible potential of human technology and ambition, but it also raised uncomfortable questions about the changing balance of power in our coalition. As I prepared to return to my duties off-world, I took one last look at the horizon, where the first dome of a new Resh city was taking shape. Our ancient home was being reborn, but so too was our species being remade by our interaction with humanity. For better or worse, there would be no going back to the way things were. The sands of our reborn world shifted beneath my feet, a fitting metaphor for the uncertain future that lay ahead. As I boarded the shuttle, I couldn't help but wonder, in reclaiming our past, what part of ourselves might we be losing? And in this new galaxy shaped by human ingenuity, who would the Resh become? The recolonization of our ancient homeworld was just the beginning. As I resumed my diplomatic duties, traveling between worlds and attending coalition meetings, I became acutely aware of a new phenomenon sweeping through our galactic society: human-driven technological leapfrogging. It started subtly at first. Human scientists began publishing papers in coalition journals, introducing novel concepts and approaches that left our own researchers scrambling to keep up. Their rate of innovation was unlike anything we had seen before, with new technologies emerging at a pace that defied our long-held beliefs about the natural progression of scientific advancement. I remember attending a coalition science conference on Nathar Prime, traditionally a showcase for the most advanced technologies in the galaxy. This time, however, the exhibition hall was dominated by human inventions. As I wandered through the displays, my mind reeled at the implications of what I was seeing. A group of human engineers demonstrated a quantum communication device that could transmit data instantaneously across vast distances, potentially revolutionizing our galactic communication networks. Nearby, a team of human biologists showcased a genetic modification technique that could adapt any species to live comfortably in almost any environment, a technology that made even our most advanced terraforming methods seem crude by comparison. But it was the human AI systems that truly left me in awe. These artificial intelligences were unlike anything our coalition had ever developed, capable of solving complex problems and making intuitive leaps that rivaled or surpassed organic minds. As I watched a human AI effortlessly solve mathematical theorems that had puzzled our best Nathar mathematicians for centuries, I overheard a conversation between two Grok-Nar scientists. "It's not just that they're smart," one rumbled, his voice a mix of admiration and frustration. "It's the way they think. They don't just improve on existing ideas, they come up with entirely new approaches we never even considered." His colleague nodded grimly. "At this rate, they'll be so far ahead of us technologically in a few decades that we might as well be primitives in comparison." Their words sent a chill down my spine, because I knew they were right. The humans weren't just advancing, they were accelerating, each breakthrough leading to three more, in a cascade of innovation that threatened to leave the rest of us in the dust. Back in my own field of atmospheric science, human innovations were rendering decades of research obsolete almost overnight. Our most advanced atmospheric processors, once the pride of our species, now seemed like quaint antiques compared to the human models that could terraform a planet in a fraction of the time and with far greater precision. The impact on coalition species was profound and varied. Some, like the adaptable Grok-Nar, threw themselves into partnerships with human research teams, eager to learn and contribute. Others, like the proudly intellectual Nathar, retreated into themselves, focusing on preserving their traditional knowledge even as it became increasingly irrelevant in the face of human advancements. We found ourselves somewhere in the middle, alternating between collaboration and isolation as we struggled to find our place in this rapidly changing technological landscape. One day, I received an invitation to visit a human research station on the fringes of coalition space. As my ship approached, I was struck by the strange geometry of the station. It seemed to bend and twist in ways that defied conventional physics. Inside, I met Dr. Cassandra Lincoln, the lead researcher. Her eyes sparkled with an intensity that I had come to recognize as characteristic of human scientists. "Ambassador Janir," she greeted me warmly, "I'm so glad you could come. We're on the verge of a breakthrough that I think you'll find interesting." She led me to a laboratory where a device hummed with barely contained energy. "This," she said, her voice tinged with excitement and a hint of caution, "is a prototype interdimensional portal." I stared at her, uncomprehending. "Interdimensional?" She nodded. "We've discovered that what we perceive as our universe is just one of many layered realities. This device can open doorways between them. Imagine the possibilities for exploration, for resources, for expansion." As she spoke, demonstrating the device by opening a shimmering portal that seemed to lead into an impossible elsewhere, I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. It wasn't just the mind-bending implications of the technology, it was the sudden, stark realization of just how far beyond us the humans had gone. In that moment, I understood that we were witnessing more than just technological advancement. The humans were redefining the very nature of reality, pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible. And they were doing it not in centuries or millennia, but in mere decades. As I left the station, my mind swirling with the implications of what I had seen, I couldn't help but wonder, in this new era of human-driven technological leapfrogging, what role would there be for species like mine? How could we hope to keep up, let alone contribute meaningfully, to a civilization advancing at such a breakneck pace? And perhaps most unsettlingly, if this was what humans could achieve in just a few short decades of joining our coalition, what unimaginable heights or depths might they reach in the centuries to come? As my ship pulled away from the station, I gazed out at the star-studded vastness of space. The galaxy had never seemed so large, so full of potential, and yet, paradoxically, never so small in the face of human ambition and ingenuity. The age of comfortable technological stasis was over. We were all now passengers on a runaway train of progress, with humans at the controls, hurtling towards a future none of us could predict. All we could do was hold on tight and hope that we could adapt quickly enough to survive the ride. The whispers had been growing for cycles, murmured in the corridors of power, debated in academic forums, and discussed in hushed tones in homes across the galaxy. Now, finally, the coalition could no longer ignore the elephant in the room, or perhaps more accurately, the human in the galaxy. I received the summons late one night, an encrypted message calling for an emergency closed-door session of the Coalition High Council. As I made my way to the ancient chambers on Nathar Prime, my hearts were heavy with the weight of what I knew was to come. The chamber was tense when I arrived, filled with representatives from every coalition species. The humans, notably, were absent. As I took my seat, I could feel the anxiety radiating from my fellow delegates. The Nathar Arch-Counselor, Raz, called the session to order. Her usually melodious voice was strained as she addressed the gathering. Esteemed colleagues, she began, we are here to discuss what has become known as the human problem. In the short time since joining our coalition, humans have disrupted our economies, reshaped our cultures, and outpaced us technologically. We must decide, as a united galaxy, how to address this situation. The debate that followed was unlike any I had witnessed in my long diplomatic career. Species that had been at odds for millennia found themselves in unexpected agreement, while long-standing allies clashed over how to proceed. The Grok-Nar representative, General Kur-Tak, argued for embracing the change. The humans have brought us opportunities we never dreamed of, he growled. Yes, it's disruptive, but we must adapt or be left behind. This was met with vehement opposition from the Calixian delegate, a species known for their conservative views. And lose everything that makes us who we are, she countered. We must put limits on human expansion, preserve our ways of life. As the arguments flew back and forth, I found myself thinking of my nephew Tiernak, out there exploring the galaxy with his human crewmates. I thought of the reborn Resh homeworld, of the quantum leaps in technology I had witnessed. The humans had brought us wonders, yes, but at what cost? When it was my turn to speak, I chose my words carefully. We cannot deny the benefits humanity has brought to our coalition, I began, feeling the weight of every eye in the chamber upon me. But neither can we ignore the pace at which they are reshaping our galaxy. We must find a way to integrate human dynamism without losing our own identities. The debate raged on, with proposals ranging from the moderate to the extreme. Some suggested imposing strict limits on human expansion and technological development. Others argued for a program of accelerated advancement for all coalition species to try to catch up. A few fringe voices even called for the expulsion of humanity from the coalition entirely, a notion that sent shudders through the chamber. As the hours wore on, it became clear that there were no easy solutions. Every proposal seemed to create as many problems as it solved. How could we limit human growth without stifling the very innovation that had brought us so much progress? How could we preserve our cultures without becoming stagnant? It was the Volcran representative, a species known for their long view of history, who perhaps summed it up best. We are witnessing a pivotal moment in galactic history, she said, her voice resonating with ancient wisdom. The humans are not just changing our coalition, they are catalyzing our evolution. We can resist and potentially fracture, or we can embrace this change and grow in ways we never imagined possible. As the session wound down, no firm resolutions were passed. Instead, a series of committees were formed to study the issue further and propose more detailed solutions. It felt like an anticlimactic end to such a momentous debate, but I understood the reluctance to make rash decisions. As I left the chamber, emotionally and mentally exhausted, I was surprised to find a human waiting outside Dr. Cassandra Lincoln, the scientist I had met at the Interdimensional Research Station. Her presence at this secret meeting was unexpected and slightly alarming. "Ambassador John Eyre," she said, her expression unreadable. "I hope you don't mind that I waited for you. I thought you might want to talk." For a moment I was at a loss for words. How much did she know about our discussions? But as I looked into her eyes, I saw not triumph or arrogance, but a deep, genuine concern. "Dr. Lincoln," I replied carefully, "I'm not sure what I'm at liberty to discuss." She held up a hand, stopping me. "You don't need to tell me anything. I just wanted you to know that we humans were aware of the concerns our presence has raised, and we want to work with you, all of you, to find a path forward that benefits everyone." As we talked, walking through the quiet halls of the council building, I was struck by the sincerity in her voice. The humans, it seemed, were wrestling with their own version of the human problem. How to share their gifts with the galaxy without overwhelming or displacing the very civilizations they admired. As we parted ways, Dr. Lincoln left me with a thought that would echo in my mind for cycles to come. "The future of this galaxy," she said, "will be shaped not by humans alone, but by how all our species choose to face this challenge together." I watched her go, feeling a complex mix of emotions: hope, fear, excitement, and uncertainty. The human problem debate had raised more questions than it answered, but perhaps that was the point. We were facing a future that none of us could fully predict or control. As I made my way back to my quarters, I realized that the true challenge ahead was not how to solve the human problem, but how to transform it into the galactic opportunity. The path forward would be neither easy nor clear, but it was a journey we would all have to take together, humans, Resh, and every species in our vast, changing coalition. As I stand on the observation deck of the newly christened Galactic Unity Station, I can't help but marvel at how much has changed in the cycles since the humans first arrived in our coalition. The station itself is a testament to this change, a massive structure floating at the nexus of several recently discovered interdimensional gateways, built through a collaboration of all coalition species, with humans and Nathar working side by side on the quantum engineering. Groknar and Volkrin handling the physical construction, and we Resh managing the atmospheric systems. The view from here is breathtaking. Through the vast transparent aluminum windows, I can see swirling nebulae, distant galaxies, and the shimmering distortions in space-time that mark the interdimensional portals. Ships of all designs, some familiar, some so advanced they seem almost organic, glide past, carrying beings and goods between dimensions and across the vastness of space. As I observe this cosmic ballet, my mind drifts back to the tumultuous years following the human problem debate. The solutions we eventually implemented were as complex and diverse as the coalition itself. We didn't restrict human expansion or technological development, as some had feared. Instead, we created a framework for accelerated knowledge sharing and collaborative research. The Galactic Science Academy, with campuses on 100 worlds, became a melting pot of ideas where Nathar philosophers worked alongside human quantum physicists, and Groknar engineers collaborated with Volkrin mystics. Economically, we introduced a new galactic currency backed by a basket of resources from multiple dimensions, stabilizing our markets and creating new opportunities for growth. The fear of human economic dominance faded as other species found niches where their unique strengths shone. Culturally, we saw the emergence of a vibrant galactic fusion. Yes, human influences spread far and wide, but they also absorbed and adapted elements from every coalition culture. I smile as I remember attending the first Galactic Cultural Festival, where I watched a troupe of humans perform a hauntingly beautiful interpretation of an ancient Resh sand dance, while nearby, a Nathar artist showcased sculptures inspired by human abstract expressionism. But perhaps the most profound change came in how we viewed ourselves as a galactic community. The humans' restless spirit of exploration and innovation had awakened something in all of us. Species that had been content with slow, steady progress for millennia found themselves dreaming of new frontiers. My nephew, Tirnak, exemplifies this new spirit. He's now the captain of an interdimensional exploration vessel, leading a crew of multiple species into uncharted realities. In our last communication, his eyes shone with an excitement I once saw only in humans. "Uncle," he said, "every day we're seeing things no one has ever seen before. We're not just exploring space anymore, we're exploring possibility itself." Of course, not all has been smooth sailing. We've faced crises that tested the limits of our new unity, hostile species encountered through the interdimensional gateways, ethical dilemmas raised by some of the more extreme human-developed technologies, the occasional flare-up of old interspecies rivalries. But each time we've managed to come together, finding strength in our diversity and shared purpose. As I reflect on all this, I'm joined on the observation deck by a familiar face, Dr. Cassandra Lincoln, now the Galactic Minister of Science. Her hair has grayed, but her eyes still hold that intense curiosity I remember from our first meeting. "Deep thoughts, Ambassador Janir?" she asks with a smile. I nod, returning her smile, just marveling at how far we've come, and wondering where we're going. She turns to look out at the cosmic vista before us. "You know, when we humans first joined the coalition, we thought we were embarking on a journey to change the galaxy. We never imagined how much the galaxy would change us." Her words strike a chord in me. It's true, the humans have changed too. They're still the dynamic, innovative species they always were, but they've learned patience from the Volcran, philosophical depth from the Nathar, adaptability from the Groknar, and respect for tradition from us Resh. They've become more than they were, just as we all have. "What do you think the future holds for us, Cassandra?" I ask, genuinely curious about her perspective. She's quiet for a moment, her gaze focused on a distant star. I think we're just getting started, Janir. There are whole dimensions out there we haven't even touched yet. Civilizations to meet, scientific principles we haven't even imagined. But whatever we find, whatever challenges we face, we'll face them together. That's the real triumph, isn't it? Not just that we've survived the changes, but that we've learned to thrive on them together. As we stand there, a human and a Resh, watching the ebb and flow of galactic traffic, I feel a sense of peace settle over me. Yes, the future is uncertain. Yes, there will be challenges ahead that we can't even conceive of yet. But we're no longer the static, cautious coalition we once were. We've learned to embrace change, to see it not as a threat, but as an opportunity. The galaxy has been transformed, and so have we all. Whatever the future holds, we'll face it with the wisdom of the ancient races and the dynamism of humanity, with the strength of unity and the adaptability born of diversity. As a new ship emerges from one of the interdimensional portals, sleek and strange and wonderful, I smile to myself. The journey that began with the arrival of humans has taken us further than any of us could have imagined. And the best part, we're still just at the beginning. The human problem turned out not to be a problem at all, but the key to unlocking the true potential of our galactic civilization. As I watch the cosmic dance before me, I can't help but feel excited for what comes next. In this new galactic order, the only limit is our collective imagination. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that our imaginations, humans, appear to be truly infinite. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.